Hi, I'm Daryl Urbanski, and welcome to the Best Business Podcast. My mission is to help create 200 new multi-millionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. In my interviews, you'll hear from self-made millionaires, seven-figure business owners, authors, and world-class experts sharing how they did it so you can too without experiencing the same obstacles they did. When your life and your business grow as a result of what you're about to discover, please call me and tell me about it. The number to leave a voicemail is 1-888-844-GROW. That's 1-888-844-4769. Long distance charges may apply. Dial now to call me, connect, share your personal story of how my interviews have helped, or share your current challenges and frustrations so I can connect you with an appropriate course, coach, or help you if you connect. Now, if you like this interview, please share it with a friend you think will benefit. They'll appreciate it, and I will as well. You can also connect with me on social media. Look for Daryl Urbanski, D-A-R-Y-L, Urban Ski, U-R-B-A-N-S-K-I, and add me so we can be friends. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy what I've prepared for you right here, right now. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always, and today we're talking with a nationally recognized leader in the specialized area of internet defamation. After 7 years, he's become the behind-the-scenes go-to attorney for the most malicious and challenging internet defamation crisis. We're talking about the technological forefront of removing damaging content from the internet. This includes uncovering the identities of anonymous internet users and removing damaging content, competitor defamation, internet extortion, online investigation, online harassment, online cyberbullying, revenge porn, online privacy, and other types of defamatory cyber attacks. Our guest today is Aaron Minc. Aaron has successfully litigated more than 100 internet defamation lawsuits in 19 states and 3 countries, securing removal of defamatory content in nearly all of his cases. None of his competitors compare, and nothing else out there compares to his unique proprietary process. He has successfully obtained verdict by jury and judge and has won temporary, preliminary, and permanent injunction and victory on appeal. In the course of his practice, Aaron has removed more than 10,000 websites, search results, and other pieces of false or damaging content from the internet. He represents clients worldwide, ranging from individuals, small to mid-sized businesses, Fortune 500 companies, large nonprofit organizations, government institutions, individuals, high-profile executives, celebrities, and politicians. I've asked him to join us today to help us understand and hopefully protect ourselves from wrongful impacts on our digital tattoo. So, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. I'm super excited about this call. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Good morning or good evening.
Good
Pleasure
morning.
to be here.
Good morning. So,
Yeah.
I love this topic. I read a book years ago called The Google Bomb, and it was talking about that. And I've been online as an internet marketer at the time of this recording, probably something like 9-10 years. And in the early days, it was the Wild West. And so I've kind of saw some of how the internet defamatory stuff can really roll out. And I've actually even seen it even in terms of kids. I was a foster parent at one point, and my foster daughter at 13 was bullying people. Like, I had to take her computer away, cyber attacking and bullying people. She didn't understand the consequences of her actions and how that impact, and that there's real people on the other side. And so when you're putting yourself out there to, in this day and age, when you have an offer, you're trying to get in front of people, when you're just trying to promote your business, you can really face massive backlash. You might not even know what people want. You're just testing different messages. It's marketing 101. Test 2 different messages, and one could get a really nasty response that you didn't anticipate because you didn't realize something about the people you're talking to. And in that case, it could kill a business in some instances. So this is a really important topic. People listening to this probably going to need to take notes and take everything you say to heart, because in today's world, it is a digital tattoo. But before you even got into this, like, how did you get going? Do you come from a family with a legal and business background? Is like, what pushed you into this direction?
Sure. So it's a niche, and I've always been an entrepreneur ever since I was a little kid. My parents weren't. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a lawyer. I'd like to think I get my entrepreneurial spirit from my grandfather, of all places. He was a Holocaust survivor, but notwithstanding kind of like the survivor mentality and being able to go through that, he came over, started a bunch of businesses, and always had kind of that adapt, survive, move on, thrive, grow, and face so much adversity
Awesome.
that he had to overcome in his life. I like to think that I got his spirit, but the way that I got into it, I wound up going to law school and becoming a lawyer. And I came out and I had studied entrepreneurship. And really, my story as an entrepreneur has a lot to do with how I chose this niche and I got into doing this. And it's a funny story ultimately with how it happened. It's going to take me just a minute to tell it. But what happened was I came out of law school in one of the worst time periods ever to graduate law school historically. It was right in 2010. The crash, the last Great Recession hit right around 2008, 2009, and it really bottomed out like the year I graduated. My graduating class had like the worst job rate. I had done fantastic, went to a top tier law school, graduated in the top 15% of my class, just worked my tail off, and went from my first year, being interviewed by like 10 different, major big firms and getting multiple job offers to then having the rug pulled out from underneath me and having almost nothing and not even being able to find a job that I could apply to when I graduated.
Wow.
I strung it together, and it's not how you plan it, right? You face challenges and you got to deal with it. And I went through the struggle. But luckily I was able to piece together any form of employment to really learn my trade, learn my craft. They were terribly paying positions, maybe like $15, $18 an hour, some of them part-time jobs, contract jobs. But I was able to at least just keep working and have no gaps, thank God. And when I was a year or two out, I encountered my next biggest failure yet. I left my steady part-time in-house legal job at one of the bigger construction companies, one of the three biggest in Cleveland, to leave for a manufacturing company. After 30 days, it didn't work out. And I felt like I'd hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And what happened at that point is, my wife had always, she was fantastic. I don't think she even worried about it, but she had always just encouraged me to go out on my own. And I had, law school is great. It helps open your mind and helps you learn and be able to practice law. But it really kills your entrepreneurial spirit and your confidence at the same time, because you realize you don't know anything about being a professional in the profession, and it makes you scared and scared to fail. And it takes a while to kind of snap that and get your confidence back and be the well-grounded business person that you were before you went at times. But notwithstanding, I said, screw it, right? And I got back on my feet. I went down to the courthouse. I started walking around from judge's chamber to judge's chamber, and was eventually started shadowing after, the second day, a public defender. And then I was responding to ads on Craigslist of all places, where it wasn't as skeevy as it was today. Anywhere, trying to just pick up clients, pick up work. I wound up my second week meeting up with some guys, two old guys who were starting their own firm, just breaking off. And I wound up joining up with them. At the same time, I wound up going out for an interview with a feisty little, and he is a smaller stature guy. That's why I do use the word little. But he's a really smart, successful guy, entrepreneur, nearby, manufacturer, inventor, and he had a big problem. And he had an issue with a review on this website called ripoffreport.com. And Ripoff Report is a bit infamous because anything that gets posted on the website, you can't remove. They have a policy where because of protections that they're provided under the law, it doesn't matter what you write. You could go on and smear someone, call them a pedophile, call them whatever you want to call them, and the content will never come down ever. And the only solution is to get a court order, and then you can have the search engines like Google, Bing, Yahoo. They will remove the content. So he saw me and interviewed me. I was a young lawyer, and he's a bit of a litigious guy, and he was smacking his lips, thinking about all the great things that he could in battles he could have me go out doing. His thing was oh, you need experience. Well, I got some experience for you. Let's go. He's like,
I got this laundry list of people I want to
so,
sue.
Right, yeah, trust me. He's like, I got some problems that you can solve for me. And these guys I just teamed up with, they're like, the new kid's bringing in a client right off the bat. Awesome. Like they were all for it. And the first issue that this client had me take on was the Ripoff Report of the plethora. And they warn you about these types of clients in law school, the ones who, you're like the fourth or fifth lawyer that they've hired and they have terrible things written about them online. Except, this guy checked all the red flags, but I did it anyway.
You're like, it's okay.
I was hungry and desperate. Yeah, right. I'm like, it's good. Let's do this. I need work. Gosh darn it. I got to feed the fam, And I went for it, and I was the first lawyer that was successful in getting the content down and having success. And that kind of kickstarted my career in the field. The funny story that happened that won the case was my client had a client who was in another state who defamed him. He had this great business idea, and it didn't work out, and the guy lost some investment money, and he was pissed off about it, and he'd just written this terrible review. We called the guy in for a deposition. And take in mind, I'm a young lawyer. I don't have that much experience at the time. A deposition is like a really big deal, especially your first one. I had never conducted one before, and we're bringing this guy in. I've sat in on a couple, but prior to the depo, we're doing some research on this fellow, and he's got this email address where, a lot of people use their first initial last name, like J Smith at 9732, right? It's unique because of the numbers. Right. Like at Gmail. And so my client Googles that username, like J Smith 9732, because we're just trying to do some reconnaissance on him beforehand. And he's like, he calls me, it's the night before, and he's like, dude, check this out. Go check out his search results. We're like, okay. I Google it. He's like, look. He's like, do you see it? And I'm like, no. He's like, keep scrolling. And so the first few results were just kind of normal stuff, and then the next one was like some dating profile, and then the next thing was like some X-rated dating profile. I'll put it that way. It was like swingers and things,
like an adult film finder kind of thing. Like he's looking,
and there were and there were multiple of them, like not just one. So I click on one of them, and the guy is standing there, and I shit you not, he's got his dick in his hand in front of the computer screen, like this is before dick pics were like a big thing. Like now all the kids are doing it these days.
Right. So
he's just got his junk out in his hand for all the world to see, and I'm like, oh my god! And my client's like, dude, we gotta use this,
yeah.
Right? And I'm like, oh my god, no, like what? Like, I can't do that. Like, this is my first depo. I don't want to get disbarred, dude. What are you doing? He's like, no. Like, he's like the Obi-Wan of litigation. He's like this litigation mastermind, my client. So he's like, no, trust me. And I'm like, so what he does, and I still remember, he's got this like industrial size printer, right? And he freaking prints out like a 4x4, like 4x5 printout of like 6 or 7 of these dick pic shots, and he brings them to the deposition, and we're sitting there in front of the court reporter, and when it starts, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's gonna kill me, like this is over, like what am I doing? And we start out and we're talking about it, I'm like, internet usage, can you tell me about it? And then I'm like, this case about what you do online, and and I casually kind of say, I'm now marking plaintiff's exhibit or defense exhibit 1 or whatever, and I start unfolding this, right, because we had to fold it so he wouldn't see it, and I push this over to him, and I'm like, is this you or whatever? And we were expecting, I don't know what what do you think happened? Let me pose that. What do you think happened?
It really depends. God, I might end up confessing some terrible stuff. I think it depends on the person. Some people won't negotiate with terrorists, and some people will crumble like a leaf. So I'm assuming it was one of those two extremes.
Right. So I was figuring, my assumption was he was going to explode, right? Like I was going to get attacked or something. My boss had the complete opposite. Like he was just going to be like, yeah, so like, yep, that's me. That's exactly what he did. He was just like, yep. And I'm like, okay. Like his lawyer's sitting there like dumbfounded, doesn't know what to do. Like he's just total nonchalant about it, not embarrassed, like whatever. I'm like, okay, I like whip out the next one. And then like by the time I got to this third, his lawyer finally woke up and was like, oh, like, and needless to say, that case settled right at the end of the depot. We got our court order and the rest is history. But afterwards, I was like, that case was a lot of fun. Like, I liked that a lot. And I went to the website, Ripoff Report, and
started searching for clients.
I said, there's like, right. And I said, oh my God, there's like 100 million, there's millions of people on this site and lawyers who get court orders, not any type of court order, but specific types, specific language. They're the only people that can help people on this site. And people who are on here, I mean, they have a real need. They really need help. And I'm one of the only ones who can help them. Like no one knew about this solution hardly at all.
Right.
And I'm like, I want to do this. I want to get more of these cases. So I started writing about it. I started speaking about it. And it was always just a no-brainer. And, the phone started ringing right away and it's never stopped.
That is probably one of the best creation, it's not a myth, but origin stories I think that I've heard. It's good. That's good. I muted myself a couple of times. I was laughing really hard. That's got it.
Good. Yeah.
Excellent. So now, has this all been sunshine and rainbows? Has there been challenges that you've faced in this field and helping people that have been wrongfully listed on something like Ripoff Report or Snopes or something like that?
Oh God. I mean, are you talking more as a business owner or challenges related to the service that we provide our clients?
Both. I mean, they're both interrelated, right? Because the service itself is the product. And so if there's issues with that could cause a major choking point for you and your business, not being able to provide it. Or I know as a lawyer, your track record is in any field, right? Your record is something that you protect, it's like your reputation as best as you can. And but what were some of the biggest challenges for you in and building this firm and growing?
Sure. I mean, I think I experienced, launching my career was such a challenge. Out the gate. It took years. That was a major challenge that I think I was really fortuitous in that I wound up having a really good run where I didn't have anything much else but just growth really after that for a very, very long stretch. I hardly faced any challenges at all as far as the business service aspect of it. I built a lot of relationships really well with a lot of partners and other people. I think that it's been a challenge growing and starting my own business. Before I was more of a solo entrepreneur, a contractor. I would work with firms as self-employed and they would provide me resources. I would do my thing and they'd let me do my thing. And that's how we were both wildly successful from it. In the last year and a half, I decided to break it off. I'd gotten too big. And, certainly since starting my own business, it's been a much more challenging endeavor. And it's going to take some time to build up, but it's been great. And I've loved every piece of it. And, the challenge, the failure, I feel like being a business owner and running a business, it's all just one big failure after another that you're constantly learning from. And it's one massive, big continuing failure that you just have to put the shine on and look at the bright side and you got to ride the ups more than you ride the downs. And you just realize that that's business, at the end of the day. It doesn't flow in a straight line up and or angle or whatever. And you gotta keep, nothing's ever that bad and nothing's ever that good. And you can look at it glass half full, glass half empty, and focus on your successes and where you're winning, or you can focus on your stresses and your anxiety and that can take you to a deep and dark place if you do that too often. But you got to just keep the course. You know?
I think that's a great way to say it. I mean, I don't know who said this, but it's a quote that I love. It's like, life is running from problem, or business is running from problem to problem without losing hope and enthusiasm. It's like it's like that's it. Like, because once a problem's solved, especially as the business owner, like, employees clock out and they go home, but as the owner, that's not that simple, right? Like, employees can check out mentally and they can justify it as, well, I'm off the clock, and then they mentally get that break. But when you're the owner, you're 24 hours a day. That thing is like, that's your baby, that's your livelihood, that's your future. And if you're growing, you're constantly trying to push through to new levels and develop. And that's like a difficult thing. Most people don't. Most people are born, they go to school, they finish their education, and then they just kind of, like, at least I'd say in maybe past generations, a lot of people would just get a job and they'd be like, I'm going to be here for 50 years and retire. And they just kind of sit there and kind of, like, they would obviously grow just through effort and hours invested, but not like in the same way as a business owner where you're proactively pushing into new avenues and new challenges and new. So I think there's a lot to be gained from that. I honestly think that it would be a better world if everybody had their own business, even if it was just side business, simply just for, like, the skills you have to develop. Like, not only just in simple example is personal finance. A lot of people have trouble managing their own checkbook. But if you have a business, you have to manage the business's checkbook. You have to pay your staff and employees. Staff and employees often hit you up for an advance on something, and you got to be, prepared for that. And then you have to manage your own. And so just through that stretch, all of a sudden of your mental faculties, you've become more adept and more skilled with something more complicated. Managing your personal finances, you still might have troubles, but it's way simpler than it would have been without that. Like, you just see it clearer. So I think I think that's very legitimate. I think it's fine, and I don't think if there's any business owner out there that thinks that they got everything solved, they're not. They're in trouble. Like, they need to open their eyes. Like,
nothing is ever solved. It's just what you're focusing on at the moment, what the fire is at the moment. And if it is solved, enjoy it for the 30 minutes that you have it, because tomorrow is a new day, right?
Exactly.
So, things are bigger than you. Things will fluctuate, change. Nothing is stagnant at the end of the day. And if you're not continuing to grow and thrive, you're gonna die. You're gonna just whether it's
life is so risky, nobody makes it out alive, So. Now, when talking about internet defamation, internet slander, and what is it, libel? Libel is oral, slander is written. Is that, or is it the other way? I don't know. Okay, so
slander is oral, libel is written.
Got it. There. Okay, so
I don't know if that's what you said or not.
Well, no, I think I said it. I think I had it backwards, so it's fine. But in this new technological world, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see your clients and entrepreneurs making, like as far as dealing with these kinds of things?
Sure. I think some of the biggest mistakes are that people don't know how to deal with things when they happen, or they're too afraid. They don't know, or they don't realize the harmful effect that it's having on their business or their reputation. Even if you're not a business owner who relies heavily on online presence and online, advertising or marketing, which you could care less about the internet. The internet is not some like vague concept anymore, and hasn't been for some time. You have a personal brand. Your search results. What happens online matters now in the real world, and it matters a lot. I mean, it can destroy a person. It can destroy a business overnight. So even if you can't feel it directly, even if you can't place it, when something happens, when there's negative information out there, it is detracting from your overall brand. It is taking away opportunities for you, either in your personal or professional life. And some people, it's a great minority, but I don't think that some people are proactive enough about kind of accepting new reality, accepting that you can't do that. You can't ignore these problems. And if you ignore them, they only get worse, and they only, you got a thorn in your side. If you never take it out, it's just going to, it may be a mosquito bite, but you're going to itch for the next 10 years. So you might as well take care of it. The other thing that I think that people are slow to realize in a lot of respects, and it's a privacy thing, I get it, but you can't disappear from the internet either. It's out of your control. There's always, if you are alive, public records, everything is increasingly going online more and more. I mean, you just can't hide from it. You can't just disappear, have your name not appear in some respect when you search, have your name, phone number, or address not come up in some way from some public record at some point, even a spammy directory link or something. It's impossible. And I think what it's hard for some people to do is accept that you need to take control of your online presence and use it as a tool for good and promotion, regardless of what you're doing in your life, so that you have something positive there. So it's not a neutral. And then in the event that you get a negative, it's doesn't take you to a net negative reputation. That you still have good stuff to inoculate yourself from an attack, and it looks like just one odd thing or one thing. It minimizes the harm of if you do ever have anything negative published. So
yeah, actually, I had an experience recently with maybe about a year ago now. A gym owner. I'm an avid CrossFitter, and I've trained at probably a dozen or more different CrossFit gyms. I trained at one, and the owner, I say this with love, he seriously needs to see somebody. I think he's got a severe case of PTSD, and it seems like every 3 months he blows up on a member and just accuses them of the craziest thing, and they're out to get him, and they're plotting against him and all this sort of stuff. And I noticed when I was looking through, because I'm an online marketer, I was looking through his records. In the early days of his school, he actually got some negative reviews right away. There was some drama and stuff online. And now he has a thing where he gets reviews from people right away, right after they join. And it's like he's trying to build like that. Like he's trying to build up so many positive reviews. If and when that happens, it's just a drop in the bucket, And so anyway, it's just what you're saying. Like, and it's also kind of the concept of digging your well before you're thirsty. Like, and it's unfortunately, it is a bit of a popularity contest, and so it's about being kind of public a bit, and maybe even a little narcissistic. Correct me if I'm wrong, but by putting your best, your best foot forward, so to speak, so it's out there. That way, if someone says, there's spit on your shoe, you can say, well, at least the rest of it is polished, type thing, and then take action. Now, you mentioned a few things. You said, they don't know how to deal with it when it happens. They don't realize the impact. They should be more proactive, and they need to recognize that they can't disappear from the internet. So I actually want to dive into each of those deeply, but before we do that, can you recommend any way to self-diagnose? Like, how do I know if I've got, like, maybe I don't even know I've got an issue? How do I find out? Do I just type my name and then see what shows up? Do I type my name and scam? Is there, where do I look to see how, because it's like cockroaches, I imagine. When there's one, there's probably a bunch. Like, how do you?
Yeah, it'll find you. I mean, these things, generally you'll Google yourself and you'll find it, or you'll know. You'll wonder, like you'll just have a gut feel about it, and you'll Google and you'll be like, that's why so-and-so said something or something happened. Or generally in the course, someone, a customer, a patient, a family member, they'll bring it up. Usually it's what will happen. It'll generally find you. You'll find out about it.
Got it. Okay.
These things, that's the thing. It's the end. You can't hide from these things, right? They don't stay online anymore. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's not a situation where you don't even know about it. I think, though, you do have to do some monitoring on a regular basis just to make sure, because, sometimes you don't find something right away instantly. It might take you like a month, right, or two before it comes to your attention. But generally, these things, because they do affect you in the real world, they will find you. You'll become aware of it one way or the other. That's what will happen.
Okay. So then how do we deal with it when it happens?
Well, I think that if you're dealing with it as a business owner, and let's say, for example, because it could be anything, right? It could be, you got an arrest for something silly or stupid back in the day, right, 10 years ago, or it could be something negative in that, it's an embarrassing photograph, or who knows, right? Or it could be something from your business owner, and you got a customer who's irate, and they've gone on and they've posted something negative. It's just it's knowing how to respond also to the situation. So it depends. That's the other point where I'd put that most people don't know how to respond to these things. You can't treat every negative that you get like it's the end of the world. You got to take some of it with a grain of salt. People are going to get negative reviews sometimes, right? No matter what. They're just crazies in the world. But at the same time, you can be the best professional always. You can do everything right. You can be the perfect service provider. You can give 100% money back guarantee, and you'll still have a crazy who will blast you just because they're crazy. It's not your fault, right?
Right. Well, statistically, 1 out of every 100 people is typically an asshole. So, just statistically speaking. Yeah. So it's you're not really out in the public if you don't come across anyone that's not, coming at. Yeah, I get it.
Right. But understanding it's all about customer service. It's all about recognizing when these fires are happening and stopping them before they do, getting in front of things, because once they go up, sometimes there's no way to remedy it once it happens. I mean, look, that's what we do. We're the firemen who come in and we deal with the crisis once it occurs. But just being the uber professional at the end of the day. And are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry. I got a little note. Let me switch over. Yeah, just being the uber professional, doing everything right, and generally you're going to have everything's going to wind up going right in the vast majority, 99 out of 100 cases, right? You're going to get those things nipped in the bud before they cause a problem for you. And responding, and whether to respond or not, is the big question that a lot of people run into. Who do you contact, who you reach out to, identifying what the problem is and the best way to go about resolving it. If it's kind of just an ordinary situation, it's not the end of the world. Maybe it's appropriate to put a response up saying, explaining the situation. But, if it's a serious issue, if it has a lot of potential to be very harmful long-term to your business and hurt you or your reputation, you got to do something about it right away. And you got to get in touch with a professional. You need to preserve the evidence. You don't want to respond to it directly. One of the biggest errors that I see is, look, if you're selling 1 million products to 1 million people, you're going to get bad reviews. It's just a fact. You got to respond. But if you're someone who only gets a very low amount of reviews, or you're not a high volume business, one review can be very meaningful and impactful. And if it's something crazy, maybe you should take care of it. And that doesn't always mean responding to it. It can mean, because that can sometimes just make it worse. It can poke the bear.
Right. It's like bullying. If you engage, it triggers them.
Right. And the other thing is, when other people see it, it becomes monkey see, monkey do. When they see you respond in that forum, they think that's the forum to go to. Right. And it's knowing, do you take that up with the website? Do you take that up with the customer? Do you go to a lawyer? So figuring out the best course and identifying the best course, whether it's a PR response or whether it's a legal response, it's not something that's easy to do and that people are very knowledgeable about. At the end of the day.
At what point is it worth reaching out for professional help? I'll give you an example, because something that is unfortunate, but it's a fact really, is people typically don't change when they're comfortable. So in the sales process, you have to be comfortable making people uncomfortable often, right? Not always, but sometimes you have to talk about the problem people have in their life and maybe they don't want to address it. And even in your marketing, like for example, take dental care. You can show pictures of nice shiny teeth and that might get their attention, but when it comes down to actually closing the deal for them to pay for 10 grand dental or whatever treatment, you have to talk about, like, are you tired of feeling embarrassed and hiding your teeth? When you talk to people, are you tired of feeling anxious with a pretty girl? And if you do that on a public forum or in a Facebook group or something, people might not respond well to that, right? And I'm trying to figure out, when does it, like, I had a thing, and we did a test. I did a joint event with a friend of mine. We put on a workshop in a city here in Vietnam, in Hanoi, and we filled a room with about 12, 15 people who paid, $50, and we didn't even know if there was interest in this, about talking about how to go from being, stuck in a classroom to doing this online, teaching English online, or starting an online business. And we were surprised by the response, and we thought we would try it again. And we did the post here in where I am now in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, And people were really offended by the ads. And some of it was just telling the stories of people that came to our event. We talked to them why, and they're like, oh, well, I had these dreams, and and then one day I just woke up and I was stuck in this rut and I was in this kind of trap and I just didn't know how to escape, and the kids were there. They didn't even really want to be there. And we would talk about that. People were like really mad. And when you said that monkey see, monkey do, there was one Facebook group, because that's how we started trying to market it. A bunch of people were like really hating. And that's where I was trying to figure out, like, for me, it wasn't a big deal. It was like, whatever. This was just a test thing anyways, a side thing. But at what point, I guess, because you even said some people don't realize the impact. Like, at what point, because you can't be afraid of any bad, like you said, you're going to get bad stuff no matter what, right? And anybody that's doing marketing actively, they're going to test a bunch of different things. And some things are going to be well received, some things aren't. It's not a big deal. What point do you feel like you need to, when does someone know they need professional help? I mean, is it just how they feel? Is there some way so people can gauge, like, this is the time to pick up the phone? Like, if someone's listening to this right now, how do they know that now's the time they need to call you?
Got it. So, I think that's a pretty individual question at the end of the day. And from a marketing standpoint, what I always find is that there are certain triggers for my clients. And different clients have different triggers. And the people who hire us and pay us a lot of money to solve and fix their problems and be that online fixer lots of times and get to the bottom of things, there's a motivating factor. And, for example, a big one for people, for example, that have negative news articles out there about them, a big one is kids, right? They don't want their kids to Google them when they get older and find it and have questions about what mom and dad did in their 20s and 30s and why they got arrested or whatever, right? And that's a big one. And what can set that off, or, as soon as that stuff starts affecting their family, right? Like, they'll be at their kid's softball game and something online, affects a family member, or some kid brings it up to another kid and they find it embarrassing. That's a big trigger for people that makes people jump. For business owners, I think most are well-reasoned and that they realize that, you're going to get some, not everything's always going to go perfect or whatever. Right. Not every review requires a legal response, but certainly where they're, what I find, when you have an anonymous review where you don't know why, when it's a problem that you don't have the solution to, and it's harming you, and you can't figure out, like, who is doing that? Is it a competitor? Is it that customer? Is it that ex-employee? I don't know. Well, you know what? You should figure it out, because they could just keep doing it, and they could be messing with you in ways that you don't even know about and harming your business. So, like any good salesman, and I've certainly learned a lot about sales over the years, you need to find that pain, and you really need to talk to people about what their pains are, what their triggers are, and let them tell you what the issue is, not necessarily make them feel uncomfortable, but, it's also just, what your marketing approach is sometimes. The fear factor can be strong. That's just a marketing question. And lawyers also can't prospect either. Ethically, we're not allowed to just solicit random people for business. So that's something I've never had to do on a sales side and can't do. But yeah, that's kind of what I would say. And my product sells itself. Either they have, we've got the solution, they've got the problem, and either they're motivated to want to fix it and pay for it, or they're not at the end of the day. Because we're the best option in town. That's the way I look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your approach is unique. Can you talk about that? Like, how is it that what you do, like, how is your process so unique? How can you find an anonymous user? Like how, I mean, I guess you talked a little bit about it at Ripoff Report, like you were the only one able to. Can you dive in a little bit more into your without maybe revealing too much if you don't want competitors to hear, but.
Oh, no, we can. Yeah, I'll go into, our value proposition is really just excellent service, excellent service, and getting, you're hiring the best. It's all about pampering the client making sure they're well-informed, transparency, trust, communication, being incredibly responsible, being the best professionals that we can. Our system, there's nothing proprietary about it other than we've got, the other value aspect is our expertise. Because we do things every single day, we know how to take things on. We know what works, what doesn't work. We've built relationships up. Like, there are websites out there who we remove multiple posts from the website every single week, right? Maybe 5, 10, 20 posts a month in some cases.
Right.
Websites like thedirty.com, she's a home wrecker. There's a whole, they're like these cheater websites or shaming websites, I like to call them. And they're like cockroaches. But, if you've approached one, you've approached them all, or you build up a really good relationship with these companies, and then you can get deals. And as far as, the investigation side of things, that's just something that you learn when you do it enough times. You learn about the technical aspects of IP addresses, how to subpoena companies and internet providers, learning how to track people down. That's probably my favorite part of my job is you get a situation where someone's just being maliciously attacked online, and you go hunting and figure out who's doing it. You go out, you start subpoenaing email accounts and user accounts and websites, and then, lots of cases the client has a very firm idea of who they think is doing this, right? Who's behind it. They've got a name, they got a suspicion. They're like, it's got to be this person. And what's crazy is that most of the time I want to agree with them, and I want to say, yeah, you're right. And I mean, it usually is pretty firm, but over half the time it winds up being someone completely unexpected.
Wow.
Out of left field. It's like, and sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. But it's always half the time it's a total surprise and unexpected. So it's a lot of fun when you get the reveal, and then you see the client's reaction, and see what they want to do about it now that they know. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. That's awesome. I get it. And that, like you said, that's an interesting can of worms, because people think about that. What if it is the person that you think it is, and then what if it isn't the person you think it is? And then what does that mean, right? Like, that's because there's lots of people that'll smile to your face, and then go and be an internet troll behind your back. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and some of the one of the craziest cases I was involved in, for example, was a girl who was she was basically like valedictorian, went to an Ivy League school, like genius, math wizard, total dork, pretty girl. And she was just getting defamed online. People were posting fake nude images of her. They were putting her head on pornography and then publishing it everywhere, starting rumors on these dark websites and these anonymous message boards about her, getting like gang raped and all this crazy stuff. And we started investigating it. The person did an amazing job covering their tracks, and it took months, but at the end of it, we wound up finally getting, just through a reverse image search of all things. I was reverse image searching these things. I found this really weird message board where people request people to ejaculate on naked images, and they also have them create naked images upon request for them. Like, they'll put it to the masses, and then the masses will respond, type of thing. It's weird, but we got an IP address from there. It was good because the guy, it was before he started his activity, and he was doing this thing, so he thought he was in a safe space. Her name wasn't mentioned, so it couldn't be reverse searched and found. I found it by the image. And when we uncover it, the guy who it wound up being was like her best friend.
Wow.
One of her best friends. And I remember when we were getting closer to it, and we'd finally gotten an IP address that was good, I'd found these weird messages where, like, they were between him and this guy, Andrew, I'll just call him. And it was like, I was like, God, this is weird that those conversations were posted and his name is blacked out in the conversations just because her computer had been hacked a few times and her private messages had been posted. And it was like, like, her immediate response was like, oh no, like, it's not Andrew. Like, it's definitely not Andrew. Like, Andrew can't be behind this. And it wound up being him. And it was like crazy, right? It was
earth-shattering for
her. It was earth-shattering.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was nuts. And, we've had this numerous times. I've been convinced my client's right, and it's this person because of the evidence. And it's like, oh, it's this other person. Like, Jesus, figure it out. Yeah.
That's so crazy. Guys can be so creepy. Like, I don't know if that's ever been me, but guys can do the weirdest, creepiest thing. Just go talk to the girl. Just go talk to the girl. Or go find another one. There's billions of them on this planet. But guys, I've been in so many different countries and dealt with so many different languages, and across the board, I worked with women's self-defense. I did women's self-defense when I was in my hometown at one point. I was working with police. I was really shocked to find that something like 90% of police reports have men involved and less than 10% name a woman. And I was just like, that's really defining of our species. Like, women live among sharks. That's really it. And like, I hope this shark doesn't eat me today. Like, that's kind of like the world that they live in. I remember reading some book called The Gift of Fear, and it was talking about how most men, maybe once a year, they feel like that adrenaline rush, like they're about to be in a physical confrontation. But for women, it can be multiple times a week, because they're walking. Like, it's just so, that's so crazy.
Well, it's not an excuse, but it's certainly, it's definitely not an excuse, but, we're programmed to be hunters, right?
Yep.
And, unfortunately, that's why, we'll always have, Me Too issues in society to some extent, right?
Yep.
It's just, the same way that we'll always have terrorism. There are certain things that, just because of the way people are programmed, you're always going to have bad elements in society who do the wrong things and in the wrong ways regarding certain things. I can tell you, though, on the other side, which is unique to my job, I deal with a lot of people who lodge, I've dealt with a lot of accusations against men, false accusations against men of, rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment. Mm-hmm. And it certainly is, when you talk about the two issues, right? Obviously, the Me Too issues it's no comparison, right? Mm-hmm. It's a much bigger problem.
Yep.
And I kind of think of myself as, look, even if it's 1%, I see more of the 1% than any society, anyone else, because of what I specialize in.
Right.
But it sucks because it gives all the people who do suffer from
legitimate
real issues and real problems. It undermines the veracity of the real victims. But I've dealt with several. And it's not a situation where it's like, there's two sides of the story. No, there's hard evidence. They're just lying, and it's just completely made up. And they're literally trying to send someone to jail and ruin their life just because they don't like them.
Wow.
Or because it's part of a blackmail scheme. Or, I had one female client who, she lied to me about being raped. And I believed her. And I took it hook, line, sinker. And when I figured out and learned that it wasn't, because the other side's lawyer disclosed some information to me, that leveled me, because I completely just ran with it. I believed her story. She was crying on the phone to me, and then it wound up being, and then she later was like, "Yeah, I made it up because I was just too embarrassed to tell my dad."
Wow.
Right? And I'm like, what? Like, I was just floored, right? So, I see a lot of the extremes that you think, you would hope, you pray, you could never imagine might happen with people who would just make things up, or who would do things to stick the police on people, to stick organizations, government organizations on people, to use, our better resources in society to tear down someone's life anonymously.
Yeah, that's scary. Yeah, I guess there's I guess we're both, the capacity for evil, if that's what you want to call it, are in both genders. So it's not like one's women. That's like, Chris Rock has this great stand-up bit, and he's like, was it men's lying is like, I was at my buddy Aaron's place on Friday night, when you were with some other girl. Women's lying is like, it's yours. Like, there's different ways. It's like, again, I don't want any hate messages. I think there's just the capacity for evil is equal. We'll just say that in both genders. It's just different formats.
You don't want to diminish one side's harm I'm just saying it's definitely there on both sides, though. And I've gotten to see a minority harm that is being way overcome by, a huge underappreciated harm in the Me Too stuff that's gone on for a while. So
yeah, I think that's true. I think that there's got to be.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's I guess a call for a topic for another call. Where do you see the future of this? Where do you see the future of this stuff going? Where are we going to be in 5-10 years? I mean, we're kind of getting the first generation now that have had their whole lives online. I mean, I remember, I was in the early days of black and white computers when I was a kid. But where do you think this is going to be in 5-10 years? How is this going to change and evolve? Where do you see this going?
I mean, it's only just growing, and the problems that are created are getting worse. But at the same time, everyone loves the internet, so I don't see anything changing, because we love the internet for all the good it does, more so than the exceptions and the harm that it creates.
Right.
We're willing to accept that right now as a society.
Right.
So, but you're going to see, and people are only going to get more savvy at destroying and manipulating and attacking people. I mean, you look at it's going geopolitical now. It's countries attacking countries with lies. It's smear campaigns. It's messing with people on social media is now an army weapon. Yep. It's pretty crazy to think about it like that. And now technology is getting to the point where it's downright getting scary. There are these things called Deepfakes. They've been in the news lately. I've done a couple of appearances on some shows about it, where you can literally just create you can take someone who has a lot of video footage out there, and you can literally just set up a video camera filming yourself, and it'll make it look like that person from a prior piece of footage, right. And you can make it say whatever you want. You can make a video of Donald Trump just saying whatever. Yep. Or some other celebrity. You can just make them say or do, or you put their face or image on pornography, and it looks 100% real. People's images are just being stolen, and they're turned into to sex tapes.
Yeah. And it probably won't be as good for their career as it was for Paris and the Kardashians.
Yeah, the law is, the law is really still catching up on these things. Like it's there's no go-to, like, oh yeah, we have a law for that. No, like, you have to be really creative in how you can attack those things and figure out solutions. But as a society, we definitely have not, we're not prepared whatsoever to deal with those types of evils and issues. Yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately.
I think that's where it really pays to have an expert, someone that's as well versed as you in it. And that's why I thank you so much for coming on the call today. For anyone that's been listening to this and feels they either want to learn more or they've got a problem, what are the best ways to get in touch? And what should they prepare when they contact you?
Absolutely. So easily, you can find us online, minklaw.com. You can get up our phone, 216-373-7706. All this information is online. Google Minc Law, Aaron Minc. You can send us an email, info@minklaw. Any of those work. There's a form on our website,
and it's Minc, M-I-N-C.
Aaron
M-I-N-C. Yep.
Correct. M-I-N-C. And what I would tell you is that, I mean, generally people don't contact us until they have a problem. Or there's something out there that's negative that's been around there for a while that they want to get, they get triggered on it, and they want to, something's come up, it's been affecting them for too long, they're looking for a new employment position, or maybe it's just this new thing that pops up. It's usually when we get involved, we're the fixers, we come in, we've got the solutions. They can reach out to us. We'll obviously need, basic contact information to get back in touch, and then also a link to the content so we can assess it. If it makes sense, we'll usually give people some initial information. If it makes sense, we'll set up a consult, usually with an attorney for free. And then, we can go over more detailed, what the solution is likely going to be, what the cost would be, what your options are. And generally, you can sign up and go from there and find out more from there.
That's awesome. So, yeah. Aaron, thank you so much for your time. I do want to be respectful of it, but I think this is a fantastic call. This is really a pertinent issue, and it's one of those things that people might not realize how important it is until they're affected by it, and it's something that may have already affected some people in their lives. They may not have really realized it till they heard this call, and I think that it's just like you said, it's something that's just going to become more prevalent as technology advances. So thank you for coming and sharing some of your stories and some tips and advice today. Again, for those listening, if you have any questions, go to aaronminc.com. Contact Aaron and his firm.
Minc.
Oh, sorry.
Minc Law.
Minc Law. You're right. I'm
Law.
so sorry. Aaron Minc. minclaw.com. I'm so sorry. I actually have the tab open on my computer already while I'm sitting here. Silly me. But minclaw.com. Go check it out. Contact Aaron. He's clearly the leading expert in his field. Thank you. Just thank you so much for coming and sharing this. I'd love to have you back in like a year or so and find out what's happening and what's new, because I think there's going to be a lot of big changes in the next few years with this stuff, and I think it's going to become a more painful issue as kids grow up with technology. I think this is something that's going to become more and more prevalent. So thank you.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
You've reached the end of our interview. Now, first, let me thank you for listening. I appreciate and respect you more than you'll ever know. And now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. First, what 3 lessons did you just learn? What 3 aha moments just jumped out at you? Second, what can you implement for yourself and your business in the next 24 hours? Third, what can you give to someone else to help you with, or give to them to just do it for you? Whatever it is, remember, taking action is the secret sauce to results. Now, if you think this interview would be helpful for a friend, please give them a link to it. It'll help them and it'll help me too. I'd also like to invite you to help me find out more about the challenges you're facing, your dreams, your goals, and how I can help you overcome what's holding you back. We both do better when we know better, and your success is my success. So please reach out and interact. You can visit our website, bestbusinesscoach.ca for Canada or California, where I'm from and where I'm living. You're welcome to also try out one of our paid programs. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and pretty much every other social media channel you can think of. You should also subscribe to the podcast, and if you're enjoying them, please leave us a nice review. It really helps. That's all for now. Once again, thank you. Take care of yourself, and remember, the world needs the best business you can build. And I believe in you.